What's the fastest you've ever seen a new coworker get fired?
I worked at McDonald's in high school. We had a kid take the cash drawer, jump the counter, and run on his first day. The dumbass had fully filled out all his paperwork and everything with his real name and address, though.
Sounds like my mom's high school boyfriend who went to jail for robbing a Burger King. Through the drive-thru, in his own truck, without taking the plates off.
Years back, a friend of mine was a plumber. One day, he told me his buddy, for some reason while driving back from a job, mooned the car next to him on the highway. My friend described it. His bare ass was out the window while somehow he was able to keep driving. When they got back to the shop, his boss said, "I got a phone call. You do know you drive a fucking billboard, don't you?"
Isolated mine in Western Australia where you need to fly in to get to work. New start on their first day complains about toothache. Our on-site med team don't do dental, so they offered to fly him back to Perth to see a dentist. He accepts and just goes radio silent. No response to calls, texts, or emails. After a couple of weeks, it's assumed that he has abandoned his employment and is formally terminated. A few months later, a supervisor gets an email from him apologizing and explaining that he had to do some time in prison, and can he come back to work?
I used to be a supervisor in a factory that employed a lot of unsavory characters. If someone would stop showing up to work, obviously we processed the termination paperwork, but mostly out of curiosity, I would usually ask around, at least if it was a good employee or someone who had been there a while. "Oh, he's serving 60 days" was a really common reason for folks to stop coming to work. The best one was a guy who was one of our best workers. He stopped coming into work, reached out and asked for his job back. We brought him back on, asked him what was up. "Oh, I did some dumb stuff. I'm out on bail right now." 2 months later, he said, "Hey, my trial is next week. I might be gone for a while." Sure enough, never saw the man again. Looked it up, he had taken a few shots at his baby mama's new boyfriend. Ruined the guy's car, but fortunately, no one was hurt. One of my first jobs was at an amusement park. On the first day, we had a meet and greet to break the ice and get to know who we would be working with for the season. Our team lead had walked off to grab some paperwork, so we had an opportunity for some more candid chit-chat. Pretty much immediately after she left, one of my coworkers bragged about using his brother's pee to pass the drug test. The next day he was gone. The kicker is none of us ratted him out, he did it to himself. Turns out he was so proud of his feat that he also bragged about it on Facebook. Shortly after, he had accepted a friend request from one of the park's social media accounts. Dude must have been high 24/7 to not realize how stupid of an idea that was.
New girl phoned in sick claiming a broken arm, screwed my plans over for the day because I had to stay. She had added me on Instagram. I see her posting beach pics. I went over to my boss, who I was friends with, and ratted her out.
Before he even clocked in, showing up drunk for your first day as a truck driver is frowned upon by management.
If I show up drunk on my first day, I can show up drunk every time, because they won't know the difference to me being sober. That guy, while he was drunk.
I was a night manager at a hotel. There were usually 5 of us at night, 1 cleaner, 1 waiter, 2 security, and myself. One night, one of the security guys tells me to check on the waiter because he seemed to be drunk. When I confronted him, his defense was basically, "But I drank at home before I came to work. That's my personal time. Are you telling me I can't have a drink to relax before I come to work?"
Worked at a strip club and girl came in to audition and did great. Come back the next day for her first shift. She brought her boyfriend, nobody knew it was her BF, who tried to fight the first guy who put money in her thong during her first song before she even took anything off. She made it about 3 minutes into her first shift.
I work in IT. At my last job, this older, 50 to 60-ish guy lied on his resume, and in his interview, an insane amount. He ended up getting the job he applied for in the finance department. We got his gear set up at his desk, and I met him when he arrived on his first day. It was very apparent to us that he knew absolutely nothing about using computers. He couldn't open Outlook, use Excel, or any of the Office suite at all, and seemed completely lost in front of his computer. His new manager soon came to this realization as well, and he was let go before 12 o'clock on his first day. Fastest turnaround I've ever seen in my whole career.
3 days. New nurse didn't feel like being transferred to another area to work after 2 people called out. Started yelling at the nurse manager. However, the NM's regional manager was also visiting that day, so she went over to the shouting nurse and said, "Your manager asked you to please go work in building 3 today. Please pack up your things and go to 3 for the day." New nurse, "Who the fuck are you? Get out of my face." She was fired by the regional nurse manager and escorted out by security 20 minutes later.
New barman. Started work at 11 a.m., helped himself to drinks behind the bar, told people the food wasn't great, flirted with the manager's wife, caught ringing up half pints instead of pints and pocketing the difference. Left at 12:30 p.m.
That's a very productive hour and a half. That guy's a hard worker.
I worked in a bar, casual restaurant, and we had to let a dude go on his first shift. He decided it was a good idea to drink all the leftovers from the glasses that came back to the bar before washing them.
One lady was hired on as an accountant, finance something. There were a few weeks between her onboarding pack being mailed out and start date, which was enough time for her to realize that her identity was stolen. HR fired her when she walked in the door, and the police had some questions to ask her as well.
A 20-year guy got hired to work the seafood counter. See him twice and then never again. Asked a coworker what happened. He had closed seafood one night and was walking out of the store, and the 6 pounds of crab legs he'd stuffed down the back of his pants fell out in front of the closing manager.
He crashed the company car, reversing it out of the garage, and lied about it. It was a small dent. The incident was caught on camera. He accused me of calling him a liar. I asked him if he wanted to change his statement. It was his second day on the job. Hardest part about that was his wife was friends with my then girlfriend, and he started telling everyone that I had it out for him. Don't do favors for friends, I guess.
We had a chef turn up for a trial week and was put on desserts. First night, he drank a whole bottle of Malibu that was meant for the fruit cocktail and got sent home for being too pissed. Following morning, he turned up early, ready for work, and had no memory of being sacked the night before.
Bartender got fired twice in the same day. Came in to work a brunch at Yacht Club wasted and was fired during setup. He went home to sleep it off and came in to work the dinner shift having no recollection of even being in the building that morning.
I sat him down and welcomed him to the company. During the orientation, myself and other employees emphasized that smoking and vaping are prohibited in the building. It's a big deal, and we have signs everywhere stating so. I gave examples of why it's prohibited and sent them on a 15-minute break. The boss walks into the bathroom into a cloud of vape smoke. When I asked him, his response was, "I was in the bathroom. It's a private area. You can't tell me what I can do in a bathroom stall." I walked him out of the building. He lasted 2 hours and blew a decent salary for our area.
I also have a first-day bathroom story. Worked in an office at a manufacturing shipping company. First day at the job, I walk into the ladies' room and there's a dude standing there counting a wad of cash. I get back to my desk and mention to the gal training me. She tells the boss. They figure out who it is, factory worker, also his first day, and fire him. I also get fired less than a year later, but it's for the best. I hated that job.
The number of smokers, and especially vapors, who will be absolutely outrageous about it is remarkable. I had one guy vaping in the middle of an indoor cafe, refused to go outside. It says no smoking, I'm not smoking, I'm vaping.
I still haven't and probably never will know the truth of it, but my niece was fired 45 minutes into her first day at a restaurant, and her mom had to go there and talk them out of pressing charges against her. I suspect it was theft, and her mom paid them back, but they won't admit to it.
We had an intern who bragged about taking a 2-hour lunch because no one was in the office that day on Facebook.
God, this was my ex, and now he is lamenting why he hasn't found a decent job in 1.5 years. He's been cruising on temp jobs that never last more than 2 months. Maybe not take 2-hour lunches or play pool in front of your boss.
I have a distant cousin who never lasts more than a week or 2 at any job. The reason she gives is she doesn't like being told what to do. And since that is essentially what happens during any on-the-job training, she gets mad and leaves.
Less than 2 hours. Worked in a kitchen. New guy came in for his first shift. Gets asked to make food for the staff. Cutting up chicken to marinate. Went to make the salad. Didn't wash hands in between. So, cross-contamination. Turns out he didn't believe in bacteria.
Not my story, but this happened to a friend. Orientation was all virtual due to COVID. And on the first day, one of the girls forgot she was on mute when she decided to talk to her boyfriend about working with the Jew bags. Now, anti-Semitism is never a good thing. But it turns out that it's particularly inadvisable when you work at an investment banking firm in New York City. She was gone from the system by the second day of orientation.
10 minutes on the job, she started walking outside for a cigarette break. We don't have cigarette breaks at my job. She continued walking. Team leader says if she walks out, she's fired. Apparently her cigarettes meant more to her than money she could use for cigarettes.
New hire on first day was sitting down on the job. Manager asked him what he was doing, and he responded with, "What the hell do you do around here?" She said, "Do you want to know what I do?" She walked him to the office and fired him.
On her first day of work, she was asking all of us if she could hit someone's vape. Then, when the boss realized there were too many people working, they asked if anyone would like to leave for the day, and this girl immediately raised her hand. And then on her way out, she hit my boss's car. My boss ended up calling her to come back, and it took her about 40 minutes to come back. She got fired right then and there.
We hired a young woman to man the business line telephone. She had to redirect the calls to the right person or department. They let her sit and listen the first day, so she understood how things worked. On the second day, she went on her lunch break, but did not return. They tried to reach her. This was pre-cell phones, but couldn't. Everyone was worried. We feared she was in an accident or something. The next day, someone drove by her home. She was at home, came to the door, said she had phone anxiety, and this wasn't a job for her. She didn't quit the job, just didn't show up anymore. She was fired that day.
A teacher at my current school didn't go through the resignation process. She just stopped showing up.
One day, and I fired him. He hit on every woman in the office and threatened violence to another male employee. He was completely insane and somehow hid it in the interview. I was on vacation when he was hired. Subsequently fired the person that hired him. The whole situation was completely mental.
Wait, fired the person who hired him? My God, you said it was bad, but I had no idea it was that bad.
I subsequently became his boss, the guy who hired the train wreck. He had really poor management skills. One of those legacy, inherit people. I vividly learned the axiom, hire slow, fire fast.
Police officer. Week 1 of training, officer in my class gets arrested. Apparently the fingerprints he provided when joining up matched an unsolved burglary.
Imagine going to the police academy, graduating, getting hired, and blowing it to waste because you've been caught for burglary.
In Illinois, locksmiths have to be licensed by the state, and the most common reason they get their licenses taken away is, you guessed it, they lied about their criminal records.
Friend owned a luxury car salon. Hired a guy who decided that he wanted to take a GTR for a ride around the block before he even got to cleaning it. The car span out of control and crushed the bumper on a sidewalk. Got fired immediately, and my friend's insurance is after him.
When I was working at a grocery store, a woman got hired to be a stalker, but would sit on the floor while she worked. The manager kept telling her to stand up, and she kept sitting back down on the floor as soon as he left. Finally, he told her to go home. She thought she was just getting sent home for the day. She came back the next day, and the boss had to explain that he meant she was fired. It's the only time I've ever seen anyone get fired on their first day and their second day.
I think I answered this one before, within a minute of receiving a job offer. Work used to hire students, and usually with the last names of our directors and senior managers. Kid gets offered a well-paying landscaping job for the summer. After the congrats, he is told to report in at 8 a.m. next Monday at a certain location. He tells our hiring person that he doesn't like early mornings, and he'll come in around 9:30 or 10, and they can just pay him the hours that he actually works. He was told no, those are the terms of employment, and the call was ended. His director dad tried to smooth things over, but the hiring manager wouldn't take him after that. And yes, his dad was a bit of an asshat too.
I once heard a story of a guy who got hired at my company and fired 15 minutes later. After a long interview process, he was offered the job. He was very excited, and when he got to the lobby, he said to the receptionist, "I'm so excited. Can I give you a hug?" She responded, "I'd prefer you didn't." And he came back with, "Can I lick your face?" I'm told he received the email before his Uber arrived.
I never got to know mine. I was hired to start Monday. Friday, they fired my whole team. I showed up Monday and was like, "Where is everyone?" They said, "Oh, the boss fired that group. He isn't in today. Call tomorrow about it. I stayed almost 2 years there, but was happy to leave. I did have someone we hired never show up. No explanation, just never came to work. HR said nothing. I presume the boss didn't like him either.
One day I was a waiter and they were a chef. It was discovered he recently got out of prison and was a drug addict. He didn't get along with the staff and the women felt particularly uncomfortable as he was weirdly hyper. He messed up the recipe for our pancakes and we had to throw away like 20 kilograms of ingredients. My manager took him for a talk, then he was gone.
I fired a guy on his first day, took him out to the shop, and introduced him to coworkers. Absolutely refused to work with anyone who was black. Would not even speak to them. Did not even attempt to hide his hatred. Most racist, vile person ever. Bye, Felicia.
4 hours. Guy turned up to an interview making all the right noises about how he's desperate for a job, will do anything, etc. First shift, he won't shut up about how shit the job was, menial factory role, and how crap the pay was right next to his manager and the production manager.
I was working in a high-end kitchen. My first shift with the new guy. I was going to show him how we made something. He accidentally stabbed me in the back of my hand. I had to go to the emergency for stitches. He missed rupturing my tendon and causing permanent damage by millimeters. He didn't show up for his next shift. The guy had clearly lied all over his resume.
My sister works in a pharmacy. A new tech was fired on day 3 for stealing oxycodone and blaming it on her. False accusations don't get you very far when every inch of the workplace is recorded with security cameras.
I have seen a lot of people dunned in a hurry over my carer. Some of the better ones. 1. Dude who showed up to work was not the same guy we interviewed. Second lady who had a master's, huge credentials, but failed to mention she had some kind of severe brain damage. She literally couldn't learn anything at all, even the most basic of basic stuff. It was like the Adam Sandler movie 50 First Dates, but with a sad lady thinking every day was her first day of work instead of a love story. Third, psycho, who went on an angry tirade and got escorted off the property by police. I had to walk a few of the ladies to their car after work. They were all scared. Fourth dude, who decided to sexually harass every girl in the office. He poofed quick. Fifth girl, who propositioned the boss, who then sent her for a drug screen, which she failed. Sixth, my favorite, worked in a call center for a while, for a phone company, who implemented a honeypot. There was a counter of shiny new cell phones, unlocked, with SIM cards, no security cords, and surrounded by dozens of hidden cameras. You could borrow one to help a customer, but had to put it back when you were done. They watched and monitored exactly who had each phone, exactly where it was. And if one left the building, you were automatically fired and blacklisted the next day. Easy way to get rid of the crooks.
2 hours after join, that guy was lied on his resume and fake experience. When he asked to do a task on server, he basically deleted entire server data with wrong command line.